Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to GameStar TV and opening night of the Blizzard ANZ Season 4 qualifiers. It's going to be a fantastic season. Really chuffed to be here. What a year it has been. It's been 3 seasons of absolute mayhem, growing from, I think we had like 11 teams or something like that in Season 1. We're all the way up to almost 20 teams now in Season 4. We've got 12 teams that have entered tonight. Of course, that's not the full field because next week, we're going to bring in the other 3 teams from Season 3. So it's just going to be going off this season. We've got a number of organizations that have joined the scene, and it's only going to get better. So welcome in. Thanks for joining us. My name is Crisis, and I am joined by Kitfox, and Disconquer has managed to get himself on screen, so that's fantastic. How's it going, mate? We didn't know whether we were going to be able to get his camera working in time, but he has come through and got it working. And in the background, we've got GL Phoenix as well. So we'll start with you, Kitfox. Welcome in, dude.
Thank you so much, Crisis, and welcome everybody in the Twitch chat. Yes, like you mentioned, we had, I think it was about 10 or 11 teams way back in Season 1, and even less before that when we were just running the Ember series and stuff like that. And now we have grown into an absolute giant. We're pushing for the no longer minor region status. We want to push for that major region, but here we are, season number 4. I cannot wait to jump into this one. But GL Phoenix is going to be joining me as the analyst in the first cast for. It's going to be Crimson versus Capital. Now, Crimson surprised everybody in the off-season ODC. They did very, very well. I believe they actually took down Dark-Sided.
It's nothing to believe. I can absolutely confirm it. It was one of the upsets of the day. We had a number of upsets through the day, but that was probably we just didn't expect it. So they will be coming into Season 4 on an absolute high, and it's our pleasure to have them in our first match. Well, let's not dilly-dally any further. Let's get them on screen. We'll bring Disco and GL Phoenix in for the next introduction, but we want to get things underway with the action already. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to you, Kitfox, to introduce GL Phoenix, and we'll get the match underway.
Thank you very much, Crisis. Yes, like we did mention, it is going to be Crimson going up against Capital. Map 1 is Towers of Doom. All maps are chosen from the Blizzard ANZ official map pool. And if you're just thinking what those maps are, you can check on them out at www.gamestar.com, or even just jump on our Twitter. We've got a few screenshots up there. But the first game is going to be myself on play-by-play, and GL Phoenix will be casting me in alongside me in the analyst position. GL Phoenix, are you as excited as I am?
Oh, absolutely, Kit. As Crisis mentioned at the start, it is going to be an absolutely cracking season. We've got a whole bunch of new teams, a whole bunch of roster changes up the very high end, so it's going to be very interesting to see how it all plays out. And as you were mentioning earlier, Crimson coming in on a massive high, managing to take the one-day tournament, managing to take that final series against Darkside, against all expectation and even against the run-up play. So, yeah, I'm really excited to see how they come out in this season.
Yeah, Dark-Sided, I believe it was on Brax's holdout, and the old Game of Throws came out in the boss pit.
Oh, yeah.
And they just marched that Odin right into the base and took down the core. But nonetheless, stranger things have happened, and, Crimson, they'll be coming in on a major, major high. So Crimson is going to be on blue first. That is going to be Altivian, Azure, Jesmez, Laker, and Moon Druid. And over at Capital, that is Sovereign, Ultimo, Fergie Games, Slaw, and I do believe we're waiting on the man himself, being true to his name, Slick Sloth.
Yeah, we're just waiting on him to turn up, and we will be able to get this show on the road. But yeah, just looking at these 2 lineups, there are a bunch of names that have been around for a decent amount of time. More so on the side of Crimson, we have names like Altivian and Jasmaz who we've seen them be in these maybe tier 2, tier 3 teams over the past couple of years. But as we saw just a while ago in that one-day tournament, they've put together a really good lineup, and they've really put on a good start, well, a good push coming into this 4th and final season. And this is the big one. The winner of this season gets to go to BlizzCon, so everyone's going to want to get a piece of that action.
So Nami are bowed out at probably the most inopportune time you could think of, but it's all up for grabs now. It is anybody's game, and BlizzCon is where all the big boys play. You got teams like Red Canids, you'll have Fnatic, winners of the Western Clash. You'll probably have Team Liquid there as well. So the biggest of the big names coming into BlizzCon, provided they qualify, and if they keep up the performances that they showed over at the Western Clash, which our boy Skinny was casting, slaying it, mind you, it's going to be one hell of a competition, GL.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how that ends up turning out, because we still have the Eastern Clash, which I believe is this weekend or very soon regardless. So we'll be able to see how some of the Eastern teams do shape up just against themselves. And because coming into the mid-season brawl, usually the standard is, all right, the Koreans will dominate, and that's just how we'll go from there. But it in a very surprising fashion, we saw Europe dominate. So we're not really sure how things are going to be matching up once we do finally get to that BlizzCon, but I'm very interested to see how the EU versus Korea matchup does end up going.
Yeah, one of my favorites was when Team Expert, I believe it was, took down one of the North American teams. They all held up letters that said NA LOL. And I just love the banter that goes on because, here in this region, the ANZ region, both Australia and New Zealand, we love a bit of banter, especially towards each other. And it's even better when two of the top three regions go head-to-head at it and just throw out bans like that. It's fantastic. It's what sport is all about. It's all in good taste. There's no salt involved. Everybody takes it on the chin and has a good laugh. But we do have 12 teams that have registered. I'm just going to run through those quickly while Slick Sloth completes his update. On screen now, we've got Crimson and Capital. We also have Mad Because Bad, formerly known as We Met at Bunnings, and my new personal favorite team name, LimeWire. Shout out to the old streaming downloading platform. We have Onyx Esports, Milkshake, Ethereal, Rolls Unspecified, The Midnights, Ground Zero, Pocket Me Lighter. That's probably just a close second for my favorite. And Team DC. Grumshot's still doing a lot of work. A lot of those are members of his Onyx Guild, which is taking in new players and teaching them the competitive roots of grassroots Heroes of the Storm. So once again, Grumshot continuing his fantastic work from last season, and he's put forward about 4 or 5 teams into this one. So well done to him, GL Phoenix.
Yeah, it's really great to pretty much just bolster the ranks of the scene, because we've been seeing it for quite a while. It's been a rather top-heavy scene, and it just hasn't really been enough infrastructure or just enough on the ground, at the ground level, to really boost up the overall playing level. So it's really nice to see at least someone, and thankfully Grumshot and the crew there have been doing a really great job in not so much fixing that, but really helping out in that regard. And over time, we'll see these teams really start to just raise their skill level and maybe eventually challenge some of these top teams once we get further into the next couple of years even.
Well, that's it. We want teams in here for the long run, not the short run. There was a time when teams were just joining for the money, but good thing that is no longer. A few notable players, we'll say, who were abusing that have bowed out of the competitive scene. And it's really good to see, the new teams coming through from the ground up. They know that they have a lot to learn before they can have a crack at the big leagues, but they haven't dip, and that is what that matters. And if you're thinking you want to get involved, you don't have to join the Onyx Guild, but you can if you want. You can put a team together and sign up on our challenge page at gamestar.challenge.com, and then you can get your team involved and then have a shot at the playoffs where the teams like Darksided, like NMD, will be playing next week.
Yeah, the 3 teams that are remaining from Season 4, which have automatically qualified into that next week of finals, have been Nomia, Darksided, and NMD. Trump Sports did, unfortunately, disband, but I'm guessing we'll be seeing some of those players pop up here and there, so not to worry about that. But yeah, the big talking points is Nomia, because 2 of the big name players from that team have left it. So Arcana is going over to the UK, and Robodova is now officially on Darkside. So that's going to really put a massive hole in that Nomia lineup. I mean, you could slot anyone else into there. It's just not going to be the same fit. So it's going to be really interesting to see not only who they end up filling those spots with, but how it's actually going to work out as this season goes on.
And
Hey,
guys, I don't know if I...
Sorry, I just want to jump in. We'll bring you in a moment, Disco. Just to explain to everybody what's happening. We're waiting for Slick Sloth to finish updating. Apparently, it's less than a minute away, but he is a sloth, is the warning that's been given us by Fergie Games. A couple of other quick announcements, though. Massive shout-out to Morton D. Short, who just subscribed. So fantastic. Thanks for having you coming on board with the GameStar Stars. Fantastic to have your support, man, and we hope to see some great things from you and your team for this season. The other announcement that I've got to make is, of course, the raffle has been open, and if you type "gimme!" !gimme! In chat, it will tell you that the raffle is for a mystery skin. Well, the mystery is no more, because we are going to be giving away 2 Garrosh. Garrosh?
Yes.
Garrosh, there you go. That's how you say his name. Garrosh Hellscream hero bundles. So get your entries in. Gimme will tell you how to enter, but of course the easy way to do it is !GS hot. And I can see now on screen that Slick Sloth is pending, so he's just about in. Disco, what did you want to say, mate?
I was just going to highlight a bit more conversation about the Nomia mini breakup, but we've long passed that now.
Oh, you could always throw in your.
Well,
it is going to be a point of discussion, I think. For
It's going to
quite a bit of this season.
Well, just going to put it in a little bit of how important Robodoba was to the Nomia list. He's not just they're losing a great tank, because they're losing a great tank, but they've lost one of the original founding members.
Mm-hmm.
Robodoba was instrumental to their first victory, bringing the team together. He was their international experience right at the start. He just ticks so many boxes that you need on the team, and the fact that Nomia have lost that, it's wow, what can be reborn from this turn of events?
Disco, do you think that Nomia, I mean, you got the core players like Fat 94, like John, like Vanilla. Do you think that they'll pick up some big names and come back hard and fast?
It's going to be interesting who they invite back onto the roster. So we're talking about Vanilla and John. They're actually new additions to the Nomia, fairly new additions. They have been playing all year, that's true. But there's only one person that's really experienced on the team, and that's Fat 94 at the moment. It's who he can sort of drum up for support. But with teams like Darkside and even Crimson, just, biting at the heels now that first place contender, I think we're going to see an interesting shift. I think we might see Nomia actually fall apart and the players feed back into different teams. That's kind of what I'm kind of guessing is going to happen, is that we actually won't see Nomia for the entirety of the season.
Well, that's interesting. With a spot for BlizzCon up on the line, it's just one of those things, I guess. But Slick Sloth has finally joined into the server right on the cutoff time before he would have had to forfeit. So finally, he gets in by the skin of his teeth. We're going to be jumping straight into Towers of Doom. The coin flip is going over to red, and Capital will have the option for the first ban. GL Phoenix, how do you think this one's going to play out?
Ooh, well, Towers of Doom. All right, so this is on the newest patch, so there have been a few changes. Garrosh will not be available, but there are the changes to heroes like Ragnaros, Butcher, even though I wasn't expecting to see him anyway. But things like Dahaka, the globals do get a decent amount of priority on this map. Over the course, for pretty much all of the next week or so, I'm just going to be using a lot of the Western Clash as pretty much just points of reference. I mean, on Towers of Doom, we saw a decent amount of Abathar. We saw some of the global play around or draft play around those kind of heroes. And I wasn't too surprised to see these drafts go in those directions either.
I'd be surprised if we see Vikings, because let's face it, we have not got a Hasuobs of our own. I don't think we have anybody here as good as that man is on Vikings, who pulled it out. Actually, not only pulled it out, favoured it quite a bit. And as you mentioned, Global's getting a lot of value on the maps with 3 lanes, probably excluding Tomb of the Spider Queen, just because it's so cozy and tiny. But Dahaka first ban taken off the board for Capital. Now it's Crimson's turn. Let's see what they take away. But like you mentioned, 3 lanes, lots of global pressure is definitely the way to go. So maybe even Falstad being taken off, and we might just see an old rough and tumble. Who knows?
I mean, there's still things like Genji on the board. I mean, yes, recently he did get that nerf, but it's more or less a nerf to his Hero League kind of play style. And even though he did get hit, Genji is still a powerhouse, and he is going to be on that ban list. So when you get to the high levels and when you get to the more coordinated teams, they can still use him incredibly well and can be absolutely devastating.
The Koreans favour Genji quite a bit. He's one of the first picks. Often you see nabbed up in the Korean series. And now Uther, though, that is one of ANZ's own. I like to think that we made Uther what he is, and bringing him back into the meta. There was a time when he was memed about GL Phoenix. Nobody wanted a bar of Uther with his 10 armor, but now he's almost a must pick, and Capital jumped straight on it.
Yeah, he really rose in priority like several months ago. I think it was, mid-season brawl, a little bit before then, was when he really got into his own, and then the meta essentially revolved around him. So, and even though he has taken a few hits over the course of the year, I guess, he's still very good, and he facilitates quite a few compositions, but that is going to be still leaving some options available to Crimson, I guess. Crimson's, and they will be taking the Tassadar, the Arthas. Tassadar, he just always has a way of just popping back into drafts. Like, no matter how much he gets nerfed,
He's strong.
He just brings so much with his kit that it's very hard to just completely push him out.
One of the best frontline tanks in the game. I mean, especially when you're going up against physical damage, Anubarak being the obvious choice for the anti-mage. Let's see if they opt for that double tank scenario and just take both of them away from Capital, and then they'll be struggling for a frontline. They might be forced into somebody like a Diablo just to get things underway. But if they keep picking those high health heroes, Crimson, that leaves Malthael open for Capital as well. We could even see a little bit of the Angel of Death come out.
Yeah, that is always an option. And on this map, you do pretty much want a very solid solo laner. But it is going to be the Johanna and the Valor. So taking away any potential Trinity combo for Capital, so not Capital, Crimson. So Crimson can't go with the Valor Oriole Tassadar combination, which has been dubbed the Holy Trinity combo for quite some time now. So Capital not wanting to allow that through, and also taking the Johanna, so wanting to secure that front line before the second ban phase.
The Holy Trinity, the barbecue, the garlic, and the chili sauce over a great team composition is what we call that. 30 seconds ticking down. Now, it is blue team's turn to take another one off the board. That's Crimson. Now, they're hovering Oriel here. Now that Trinity's been taken away from them, they would not want Capital to get that. Oriel extremely strong when you have a battery like Valor on your team, and I think Crimson are looking at that.
Yeah, and even though it is the Tassadar in that Trinity combo, the Uther Oriole combination has been proven to be incredibly strong, so not too surprising to see it banned away. It seems that Crimson don't want to be picking up that Oriole for themselves. They probably have some other option in mind, maybe something like a Rhaegar, and just really not wanting Capital to have any kind of chance of getting that for themselves.
So a lot of dive taken off the board now. Genji and Tracer, two extremely deep champions. They're off the board. So the bans are Genji, Oriel, Dahaka, and Tracer. Now Crimson get the chance to go for double pick before handing the last two over to Capital. They still do need a second support, like you mentioned, possibly Rhaegar. Just struggling to think who else would go with that since Uther's been taken off the board. Maybe even a Brightwing. I mean, Brightwing is not bad lately, especially with that Emerald Wind. We saw a bit of it in the Western Clash, used very, very well by several teams, but from NA and EU. But now let's see what they take. I don't know, GL Phoenix. It's very much up in the air here. They could make anything out of this Tassadar Arthas composition so far.
Yeah, they still have a decent amount to work with. And as you mentioned, the Brightwing, it did start popping up quite a bit throughout the Western Clash, and wouldn't be too bad of an option here. But they are going to lock in both of their DPS heroes right now, the Greyman and the Kel'Thas. I mean, Greyman I can understand, does very well just in general. He's very strong, but the Kel'Thas is a bit of an odd one for me because mages, like wave clear mages, just it's not the first thing you think of when you start going towards a map like Towers of Doom. So very intrigued to see how this one shapes out. And they still have their secondary support to pick up. So it is going to be a solo frontline Arthas. Very interested to see how this composition does shape up for Crimson.
We could even see Stukov for the first time here in the ANZ scene.
That is also an option as well, yeah.
I mean, Healing Pathogen, extremely strong, and Bio Kill Switch, when you detonate that, it's fantastic. And I really like Stukov. I don't think we saw enough of him at the Western Clash. Yes, Fnatic played him a couple times, but Fnatic are just so strong. Like the casters of the Clash of saying, you can't really tell if he's good or not because they just curb stomp everybody before he gets a chance to, sort of be impactful.
Yeah, it was the real first world issues is you pick him, you win with him. You're going up against him, you beat him. So you're not really sure of the skill power. But on the side of Capital, the Tyrael and the Lunara, I really do love Lunara. I've been playing her mainly over the past couple of months, and she just does so much damage. Once you get to late game, her scaling is so very good, and she can deal with quite a lot of the very popular options right now. So very happy to see her being picked up. And the Tyrael, well, very much on the more support side when it comes to tanks, and it can facilitate quite a few compositions. We're very interested to see how they end up playing this out. It's a very solid lineup on the side of Capital. We're still waiting for the second support on the side of Crimson, but I'm liking what the red side have been picking up so far.
I mean, Tyrael is fantastic because you can go for either the Sanctification or the Judgment to go in extremely deep, but Malfurion now being locked in for Crimson, so they're going to go for the old school healer, the old school go-to healer, even though he's been nerfed not quite into the ground lately, kind of like the Roadhog of Heroes of the Storm. You just need to
I don't think Malf got hit that bad. I mean, ANZ does still play Malfurion, and we still favor him a reasonable amount. He's still picked here and there, whereas the Roadhog, you imagine, he kind of just got hit with it.
He got hit by a bus and was buried 12 feet under. Forget 6, he is gone. So the teams are going to be Crimson versus Capital as we load into Towers of Doom. Azure is playing Kael'thas, Leica is playing Arthas, Altivian on Tassadar, Moon Druid fitting for Malfurion, and Jesmez over on Greymane.
And on the side of Capital, we have Fergie Games on Johanna, Sovereign on Valor, Ultimo on Uther, Slaw on Lunara, and Slick Sloth finally getting into the game. He's on the Tyrael.
He did have to update and then took about 5 attempts to get into the lobby. Must have been going to the toilet or getting himself a drink of water. But nonetheless, we're 15 minutes over time, but we are in Towers of Doom. Do you think that Lunara will go Leap here as opposed to Thornwood Vine? I mean, it depends what Tyrael is thinking. If he goes Judgment, they might be going for that extremely deep combo.
Yeah, it's always a very interesting decision when you go for either Leap or the Thorn of Vine. Leap is when you have pretty much certainty that you're not going to die if you go flying through, or if you need the extra kind of mobility to get out of some sticky situations. But the Thorn of Vine can do so much work, and if you are going to go for the can't remember the name of it, the unfair advantage at 13 that makes her poison do more damage to slow targets. There's not really a whole lot of slows on the side of Capital, so if they were going to go for that the unfair advantage, you'd want to go for the Thorn of Vine so you could get that poison across as many members as possible and just spread it out, and then hit that slow and then just do as much damage with that. But we did see over the course of the Western Clash, Lunara was actually a fairly popular pick over the entire tournament. And we saw it primarily going, a lot of the Lunaras going towards Spell Shield at 13 or the Giant Killer, depending on what they're up against. So wouldn't be too surprised to see a Spell Shield from the Lunara, just because that Kael'thas could really ruin her day.
I mean, the CC game for Crimson is extremely strong here. You've got the Gravity Lapse on Kael'thas, you've got the Howling Blast on Arthas, Entangling Roots on Malfurion. There's just so much for them to work with to shut down a deep Lunara or a deep Tyrael or even a Vala. If Vala gets caught by any of those and gets chained, she will just get absolutely melted. So Slick Sloth is just having a little bit of trouble connecting to the game. We might see our first 3-2-3 of the season coming into play, depending on how long he takes to get in. But I'm just excited for this one. But on paper, who do you back in the draft?
Ooh. Looking at the draft, to be honest, I kind of favor Capital, but just looking at just the teams in general, I think Crimson are probably the better team, but we'll have to see how this ends up playing out.
So Slicksloth has had a little bit of a disconnection issue. Now he's finally jumped back into the game. So maybe not a pause to start things off, which is always good.
He's in the game.
We don't want any delays. We just want to dive straight into it, especially since we have started a little bit later, Slicksloth. But yes, make us proud, son, on that Tyrael. Let's see what he goes for to start things off. Wave of Light being picked up for Uther. Almost a gimme there, and Malfurion going for the scouting drone, so a little bit of extra vision. Now, Malf still very strong with his level 1 talents. You could almost go any of them, and you'll come out with a victory.
Yeah, he does have a bit of variation, and I think just in a map like this, where there are a lot of bushes to be working around, the scouting drone just gets a lot more value than it does on some of the other maps, so not too surprising to see that, as we are getting into the level 1, where we get the usual, just run it down mid for a little bit, and then see how we're feeling about it.
Ooh, Howling Blast finding Lunara. Kael'thas throwing out those big flame strikes. He has not picked up Convection, going for the mana addict here. The Roots find their way onto Slaw. The Wisp was taken down nice and early, but you can see 2 players up in the top lane for Crimson. No defense for Capital. They're getting a nice little shove going on up there.
Yeah, although it does have to be said that Capital aren't really going to be losing out too much on experience, because Slicksloth is there in time for that minion wave to crash onto those towers. So not much or any experience lost in regard to that. So it's just going to be trading just a little bit of just feeling each other out for these first few minutes of the game until we get that first shrine, the temple phase coming up, when we can really start to see some fireworks start to fly.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if there's 3 in the bottom lane for Capital against 2 for Crimson, meanwhile in the top lane, still going for that double push assault. Crimson have got Jesmez and Ultivian up there, just taken to Slicksloth, and they don't even care about him. They're going straight for the tower, trying to chunk up that XP, knock some walls down. And I think they're going to get there. Yes, they're going to take the first tower of the game. Jesmez taking a bit of damage. Finally, Slaw comes in for a little bit of support. The first towers are about to spawn. Back in the mid lane, the chain stun has landed on Leica. And he does manage to get away there. So a little bit of action, the slight experience lead for Crimson at this stage as these towers spawn, Geophoenix.
Yeah, a nice play early on from Crimson to get those few early towers, just to get that little bit of extra experience as we come into this first phase, as looks like we might get something happening on the top side.
Yeah, looks like it's going to be going on Capital's side of the things. Lunara gets dropped. Well done, First Blood, going over to the Crimson lads. We won't be too happy with that one, Will Slaw, on the Lunara. They're going to zone out Slicksloth and just take away any chance he had of defending that bell tower. They're going to take that one away from him, and that is not good. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, where the old solo middle tower is, Sovereign's taking a lot of damage here from Moon Druid. Needs to be careful. And he's on a sliver of HP, going to be forced out to retreat, narrowly avoiding the Moonfire Root combo, but they're going to get its tower back. So it's a slight advantage to Crimson, taking 2 towers. Capital walk away with 1.
Yeah, it was only just that Capital were able to secure that bottom tower, so it could very well have been a delay long enough that Crimson could have secured all 3, but very nice that that Capital were able to secure at least 1. But still, advantage in favor of Crimson. They are going to be getting this Sapper camp on the top side of the map, so it looks like they just want to be playing as much pressure on this top side of the map. And Slicksloth, I'm pretty sure he just doesn't have enough in the Tyrael kit to be able to withstand all that pressure. He's going to need some help from his allies, and we saw what happened before. Slaw did come up. He did help in repelling the push, but then got caught out as he
down in the bot lane. Asua's going to go down. Oh, sorry to cut you off there, but Kael'thas got caught out, and he is now being taken out, and that is some much-needed EXP coming in for Capital. They're going to take their sappers now just to answer things up a bit, but like you mentioned, that top lane does need a little bit more support. Slicksloth doesn't have the wave clear or the pressure and power on Tyrael at this stage of the game just to push Crimson back, especially when you got somebody up there like Greymane, who is just piling it on the pressure, going for that cocktail build, the tried and tested one. Sappers now being taken in the bot lane by Capital, but meanwhile, top lane goes down. Crimson have got the early one.
Yeah, and there's just not really much response coming out from the side of Capital. They're just allowing it to fall. I understand that they want to apply pressure elsewhere on the map, and they're getting advantages, as Ultima is taking a lot of damage from just the Arthas.
The Frost presence is extremely strong. He's eaten 2 Howling Blasts just for good measure there. And well done, Leica, just to keep applying pressure on Arthas. I mean, you need to time your maneuvers well, but here comes the rotation down from Crimson. They're going to go down. There's no vision at all. Slaw over at the Sappers throws out the Wisp. Much needed vision there. Spots Azure, spots Altivian as this tower now gets spawning down in the bot lane. I think that Capital are just quite content to let this one go. Slick Sloth eats a gravity lapse. Oh, massive combo into the entangling roots. He needs to be careful here. Tassadar just throwing out those disruption pulses. Gets the Q away. Well done, Slick Sloth escaping with a sliver of his HP. And Eldruin's might saving him there. Well done, Slick Sloth, for getting away with his life.
Yeah, but in the end, it is going to be that tower going over to the side of Crimson. So they've got 3-1 of Capital. So already a very good start. They've got a little bit of an XP advantage, and it's not the best of starts from Capital. They're just getting pushed and bullied around the map so far, and they just haven't really repelled. They haven't really had that big moment where they could just push back just yet.
Yeah, 4-man push now into the bot lane is just wreaking havoc on this wall tower combo. In comes Fergie Games, gets a nice condemn off, catches 3 in there, forces out the... he was forced out to use the Iron Skin, and now he gets another condemn off. He's caught Leica. They need to be careful because Frost Presence is up, dealing a lot of damage to Ultimo, throwing out the Shield Glare to get the blinds off. That takes away a little bit of damage from Arthas, but Frost Presence is extremely, extremely strong, and he's gone for the Frozen Wastes talent as well. Meanwhile, in the top lane, they've taken the tower back of Capital, but Leica now copying a lot of damage. Ultimo gets dropped on, so much damage, but he does go down eventually. Jezmez with the lead now on the back line at Sovereign. Needs to be careful because Jezmez is all up in his face after that leap onto Ultima on the Uther. Leica needs to be careful not to overextend. Does go down. Fantastic. Finally, level 10 comes up and Phoenix goes out. And Tassadar opting for the Force Wall, trying to cut them off. So much AoE damage and wave clear on the side of Crimson here, GL Phoenix.
Absolutely, and they used that 10 power spike incredibly well. They knew that they had just needed a little bit more of a push to get those heroics, and once they did, they went all in and got that fight going incredibly well. But Twilight Dream doing so much work, and as you mentioned, that Phoenix coming out towards the end just to finish off some of those lower members, and this is just going from bad to worse for Capital. They're losing bell towers just left and right. They're having to struggle just to get one back, and it looks like with the positioning of this altar, it is going to be yet another 5 shots in favor of Crimson.
Yeah, look at the zoning effect coming out here from Crimson. They're pushing them all the way back, making sure that they get the maximum value from this altar. They're going to get 5 shots away and do so much damage to the core. There it goes. And poor Capital are just struggling a little bit here as Sovereign rotates down from the mid lane. In the top lane, meanwhile, Altivian and Jezmez just owning those Sapper camps, making them do their dirty work for them. And Capital, a little bit too late. They're going to take the tower back, but they've still eaten quite a few chunks onto the core. They're at 22 out of 40. The bots are spawned, so it's definitely up for grabs here at the moment as Crimson now just mopping up the map, taking all the camps that they can. Sovereign needs to be careful. Oh, the Rain of Vengeance didn't catch anybody. The Phoenix goes down, and Bella gets deleted as Ultimo taking a lot of damage now. Moonfire stuck in the Frost Presence. He's gone to Arthas. Fantastic play. Slick Sloth needs to be careful. Forced to Eldruin's might away. This is fantastic play here from Crimson.
Yeah, and it's just the members of Capital are just not in a good position to be able to take advantage of any kind of potential positioning mistakes from Crimson, and they're always just reacting to the plays that Crimson are making, so they're just not in a position to get it to work, and they've just all game they've just been trying to react to the pushing pressure that has been going up against them, and they're struggling to keep up with it.
Definitely, now that they've got no towers at all, they're going to get the top one very, very soon. One cheeky shot away from the Raven Lord before they cap that tower back. But this is an extremely difficult spot to come back from GL Phoenix, especially when you've got a team like Crimson who know how to snowball so well. They've taken both Sapper camps already, so no more extra cheeky little shots. But they are, if they could go for the core right now, they would.
Yeah, absolutely. They are so far ahead just on just like game pressures. We do have a big engagement.
Oh, huge Phoenix coming out there from Azure on the Kaldar. Slick Sloth was way too deep. Eldruin's might was not up. Iron Skin comes out from Johanna. Is caught in the Howling Blast Gravity Lapse combo and goes down. Force Wall cutting off the retreat from Uther. They're fighting under the cannon towers. And it's just too easy here for Crimson, the conquerors of Darksided at the moment, GL Phoenix.
Yeah, and they're showing that dominance right now. I mean, they're going to get another 12 shots because they have those 2 extra towers. so many shots going over to the side of Capital's core, and see it drop incredibly quickly. There's the boss, which is still available. I mean, it is still reasonably early into this game, so the death times aren't too long, so we could potentially have Capital coming back in time, but it looks like they just want to keep on applying pressure on the structures. They've been doing so well so far this game in just pushing down all of these bell towers one by one and forcing their opponents to try and respond to them. It looks like they just want to try and catch them out as they go for it, as Ultimate gets force walled away.
Yeah, fantastic force wall coming out there from the man on Tassadar. Good Divine Storm coming out, but not good enough as they get absolutely dropped to Team Capital. The Crimson train is chugging along. Howling Blast goes out. Another force wall coming out from Tassadar. Fergie Games is going to fall like a sack of potatoes, and this is too strong coming out here from Crimson Esports. They are just dominating Capital left, right, and center, mopping the floor with them. And at this stage, it's going to be one tower, one boss. GG. Slaughter needs to be careful because he's been caught out in the Howling Blast by Lunara. Oh, Arthas with the Death Coil, just finishing things off for good measure. They want this tower. They want some more EXP. They're going to take the boss after this one, I would dare say, GL Phoenix. They are in total map control, apart from the middle tower, and one more altar after this, and that'll be GG.
Absolutely. They have just much control right now. It's incredible how well they're doing so far. And just going back to that fight, I mean, the Sanctification coming out of Slicksloth was brilliant, but as soon as that finished, the Living Bomb coming out of Kalthas did so much work, got so much value at that very stacked up group. It just absolutely wrecked the side of Capital. So it looked like there was a ray of hope in that fight for Capital, but in the end, it just got snuffed out immediately. And this is going to be incredibly tough for Capital to try and get any kind of room back into this. There's 3 altars, and they're not in a good position to try and get in, but they have to try and make something happen.
They have to go. Phoenix goes down on top of the altar. One tower already taken, and there's just so much damage being caught here. Fergie Games getting some good sustain off. Iron Skin is down, drops a good Divine Storm coming out there from Ultimo, stunning everybody in place. But these force walls are just carving Capital down the middle, and Crimson know that. Vengeful Spirit coming out there from Material. It's going to do a little bit of damage, but not enough. Leica seals the deal, puts the wax stamp on the envelope, and GG's come out. Signed, sealed, delivered.
Yeah, that was a very convincing game coming out from Crimson. We were kind of coming into the day expecting them to do quite well, especially considering their recent results. But I don't think we were expecting that level of dominance. It was just incredible just how much they controlled the map and just controlled the pace of the game. It just was so little that Capital could do.
Your MVP suggestions for that game? I really liked the way Altivian played that Tassadar, the way that he was able to land those force walls in the perfect position every single time. He cut off Ultimo at least 3 times and was able to, and the rest of his team was just able to dunk on him from there. And we mentioned the CC control that Crimson had early on, the gravity lapse into the roots, and then Howling Blast, Frost Presence. It was all over from there. So I'm going to nominate Altivian. How about yourself?
Well, Altivian, as you mentioned, did so very well, but you're looking at the damage numbers. The Kalthas just did so much. Yes, he didn't go for that convection, which does really explode when it comes to the numbers, but I do prefer that safer route with the Mana Addict, but he was still able to do so much damage, especially with just how much Capital wanted to group up in those fights. He got so much value out of those living bombs and was able to do so much damage. And as you mentioned, those gravity lapses were hitting on those key targets when they needed it, and was really setting up quite a lot of plays. So Altivian also did very well, but I think I'll be throwing my MVP nomination towards Azure on the Kalthas.
Oh, fair enough there, fair enough. I know what we'll do. We've got Disc and Kerr in here. Disco, you watch that game. Chime in, buddy. Help us split this tie.
All I can say is wow on the side of Crimson Esports. I mean, their execution of that map was almost flawless. Like, we saw really early on in the game when the first set of towers spawned that they did this really interesting. It was a great play. Is that they used their 3 of their members in the top lane to invade the enemy's altar. And then they had, I believe it was Greymane, and I think it was Malfurion in the bottom lane. I can't quite remember the players. I've got to write it down. But what they did is they forced Capital to have this odd situation where they didn't have the tools necessary to actually kill a killer KT in the bottom lane. Even though there was 3 of them down there, they had I believe it was they had Uther, they had Lunara, and I think it was Johanna. But because of Malfurion's way that he can poke, and then we also had the ability that Kelthus could stay pretty safe with the gravity lapse and his distance, it was really hard for those 3 members to actually kill KT and Malfurion, and they could just poke him off. They could just go, no, you're not going to capture the tower. In the top lane, we had Greymane, Tassadar, and Arthas killing, I believe it was, I think it was Lunara and Tyrael on the top lane. They had nothing. There was nothing that they could do to stop those deaths, to get that tower. And I just think that was a really good play on Crimson. I mean, and it goes on at level 10, just before they hit level 10, they grabbed the fortification in the bottom lane, and then they went and grabbed the great execution again. KT, talent choices. Guys, talent choices. A lot of notes.
Yeah.
Talent,
So who do
where
you
was
think is gonna take
Convection?
the MVP? Just go. Who do you think the MVP?
It's definitely got to go to the Tassadar or Greymane combination there. They were crucial to it. I'm going to say Tassadar.
Okay.
Let's give
there
it to
we go.
Altivian.
Alrighty.
Well done. Yeah, special mention to everybody on the team for Crimson. Everybody did their job and it came together like a jigsaw that wasn't missing any pieces. So well done to Crimson Esports. Well done, Altivian, for taking away the MVP for round 1, game 1 of week 1 in the Season 4 Blizzard ANZ qualifiers here on GameStar. But we're going to pass you back over to your host, Crisis, to take us to the...
Hey, thank you, Kit Fox, and thank you, GL, Phoenix, and Disco for the analysis tonight so far. We're going to take a very short break, ladies and gentlemen, just 2.5 minutes or so, because all of the other matches have completed in round 1 of the bracket. So we're going to be setting up for the next match, and we will be back right after this.